Welcome back to the Single Parents Network podcast with Coach Nrgy. I am the Single Parents Coach, where I work with single fathers, single mothers, and those who date single parents. On this podcast, we talk about everything involving matters of the heart, co-parenting, dating, divorce, work-life balance, time management, you name it. I have my guest this week, Monica. She is here to share with us her thoughts and suggestions and tips on everything involving single parenting and how to achieve financial independence. Monica, thank you so much for your time today. I am looking forward to this conversation. Please take a moment to introduce yourself to our listeners and let us know a little bit about your connection and your experience to the topics that we will discuss today.
Well, thank you very much for having me. This is a real pleasure and an honor to be here. And I love that you are focusing on single parents. So as you said, my name is Monica. My last name is Scudieri. I have a website called grabyourslice.com, and I am an author. I published my book called Grab Your Slice of Financial Independence. And it is basically about my own journey as a single parent, maneuvering the journey of financial independence. And so the book is basically 10 years of my life. I use it as a case study, and I document each of the years, and then I group the years into phases so that the readers can do their own exercises to reach their own definition of financial independence. When I started my own journey, and in the book it talks about this, I started when I went through my divorce, and my kids were 3 and 5. From the divorce, I took on the marital debt, $257,000. Half of that was the mortgage. I did get the house and the kids, and then I lost my job. So I live here, and I don't have family in the area. So it was really hard. And the first 5 years of that journey, I lost 3 jobs. So I was actually on unemployment 3 times for a total of almost 2 years. What's different about my book is that I actually publish my net worth at the end of each of the years. And the reason I did that, and that was a really hard decision, but the reason I did it was because I felt like the story wasn't complete unless the reader got to see the numbers. Because a lot of people think, oh, you win the lottery, you get an inheritance, it's just instant. But true journey to financial independence is it takes time. And in my book, you'll see that, not to give too much away, but you'll see the net worth actually go down a little bit those first 5 years because I kept losing jobs. It was a real struggle. You get really creative on how to make ends meet. But then things turned around, and I actually was able to make financial independence in 10 years from the time of the divorce to 10 years later, making my financial independence number. And it was such a surprise to me that I actually worked another year just to kind of let that sink in. I wrote it because I feel like, especially single parents and moms and dads, as you know, there's over 12 million single moms and over 4 million single dads just here in the United States alone. Parenting is hard enough. Raising children, raising children is hard enough, but it's, the money shouldn't be hard. And people struggle. We don't have the education, laws change. It's really hard to keep up, to see how to leverage all the opportunities that are out there, So I wrote the book for the single parents, and then I launched a coaching business that I'm working on, and it's evolving. But my target was to work with single parents, but what I was learning is that married couples that are becoming empty nesters, single people that don't have children, they could relate to the story, because we all go through periods where you are up to your eyeballs in debt. You don't know how to get out of it. It's just or you live paycheck to paycheck, or you're just one step away from losing your rental home. And so I wrote the story to show that there is a way out. You are not alone. And this is how I did it. And this are the exercises that you can do to get the same thing for yourself and your family, and potentially change not only your life, but your generations, your children and your children's children, by learning these things. And I've often told my kids, it doesn't matter how much you make, because you can see there are plenty of stories of people that just make 50, $60,000 and get to retirement age, and they have a million and a half. But you see just as many football players, professional people, or lottery winners, the curse of the lottery, who make all that money and they end up in crazy debt. So it's never about how much you make, but you have to know how to manage it. If you make a million or you make 10,000, if you spend it all, you still have zero.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that is just really important for people to understand is, you start where you are. And a lot of people, they don't even know how to measure where they are because we're not taught these things. So the book, I think, is from what I've been told, has been a good resource for more people than I thought would reach. So it's been really fun.
That is a lot of information you shared. I was taking notes. With that, I want to immediately go to one of the last things that you mentioned first, and then I'll kind of work backwards. You mentioned a lot of people do not know how to measure where they are.
Yes. Yes.
Talk,
That's
talk to us about that.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. So that's one of the very first things we talk about. So I have my coaching program, and I give, the first meeting is always free, because it's really it's in a way for them to get to know me. Am I the right coach for them? Do they even need a coach? And figure out, where do we go from here? I've had people that I'd like to tell them, like, you don't need a coach, you need you need an advisor, and I send them to somebody that can actually help them. But really, a lot of it is, have you calculated your net worth? Just making a list of your assets, making a list of all your debt. And it's hard for people, and it was hard for me too, because you don't want to see. There's shame, there's guilt. I mean, for me, I'm an adult. I'm college educated. I have children. How can I possibly not know how to manage the money that comes into this house? But the truth of the matter is that, I had family overseas, and I would go spend time to go visit them. My kid's dad, he had family overseas. And so we would go back and forth. We'd go out to dinner. We did all those things that, you do in your 20s, because in 30s, because, my paycheck is going to go up and my career is going to take off. But that is not necessarily the case. So what I learned is that calculate your net worth, make that list, be honest with yourself, understand that, okay, yes, you may have shame, you may have guilt, and that is okay. Remember that when you see that number of what your net worth is, it's a point in time,
Mm-hmm.
and be okay with that, because you have the power to change it. And the other thing I talk about is recording your expenses, recording your cash flow. I had a single mom. She had one daughter come to me, and that was one of the exercises I gave her was, I want to see what your cash flow is. And she said, no, I don't need to do that exercise. I'm the only person that spends money in this house, so I know where my money goes. I don't need to record it. And I said, I'll bet you don't know. And we were at a coffee shop, and she took the napkin and she said, rent, groceries, restaurants, and just listed, like, I don't know, like 6, 7 things. And then she put numbers down and she added it up, and she goes, that's what I spend. And then she looked at it and she goes, wait a minute. And then she smudged the numbers because it did not add up to her paycheck. And so she moved, and I held on to that. And I said, do the exercise in 1 month. Let's meet again, and let's see if you're right. Well, she brought her numbers, but she didn't do the exercise. She just brought her statements in because she had a debit card. And so I opened up my laptop and we just pulled an Excel spreadsheet out. And she was floored that she was spending twice as much on restaurants, twice as much on groceries. And there were a few other things. But those are some of the biggest things is, the dining out, the groceries, and just the little things like getting tickets to a concert, or, getting your kids that extra pair of shoes, or, like those little things you don't think add up. Like even the McDonald's stuff, it adds up, and that's where she was getting caught. And so that is a big thing that I encourage people. It is a wealth of knowledge to record your expenses, your cash flow, the money coming in, the money going out. And then the third thing I would say is to really take some time to think about what's important to you. What are your goals? What is your measure of success? I had one guy when I asked him, I said, well, if you had the money to retire, what would you do? And he goes, oh, I would sleep for a month. And I said, okay, well, that's cool. And then what? And he was like, I don't, I got work to do, And so the conversation ended. But, people don't think about that. They don't think about what's really important. And really, when I press upon that and drill down, it always comes down to the same things: family, having friends, having my health, those things that we take for granted sometimes, especially when we're younger, in our 20s and 30s. You get older, your 50s and 60s, it's not the same. Your body doesn't move the same. But when you think about it in terms of that, and that is your priority and where your money is going, there's usually a pretty big gap that the spending is not supporting what is actually important. And so those are some of the conversations we have early on that really kind of put things in perspective and get my clients excited to start working with me and start implementing the plan. Because I'm more of when I coach, I'm a big believer in teaching people to fish. So I don't know, sometimes I think this is maybe not the greatest business model, because I have to be constantly looking for clients, but I don't want them to be dependent on me. I've only had one client that maybe stayed a little longer than I thought they needed to. So we had a couple of extra meetings, but when they're ready, you got to go at the client's pace, but generally it's my goal to teach people all the tools, help them establish some good habits, give them alternates to their bad habits, and show them, be with them those first few months, 4 or 5 months, to show them where things could go. And because sometimes you just need to see the results. And then they can duplicate that for themselves and move forward. And then, I'm always here, once in a while people ask me questions, but I mean, they do great, but that's really the big thing, is where do I start? That's the biggest question I get. Where do I start? I don't even know. There's just a big pile of paper.
Yes.
So that's my long answer.
No, and I appreciate, thank you for going into detail. That's what this conversation is all for, going into detail. I love the way that you give more information, or give a lot of information, because each person that's listening to this episode, they will pick out of it what they need. And so, yes, please continue to elaborate as needed. But I do want to mention that you talked about, as a coach, how sometimes, because my business model is the same as coaches, we are here to equip our clients and give them the tools that they need in order to take it over and, handle it on their own, and, move on and go fly, fly and expand, and yeah, but that is important, where not wanting to have them feel so dependent on you is important, because this is their life to live. Ultimately, it's their life to live. And with giving them the tools, we are giving them the knowledge of the how-tos and well, where do I begin? Well, here's step one. As a coach, we have the ability to break down something that feels and seems so large and massive. We're able to simplify it, help them to make it make sense, and then to start implementing whatever necessary steps, based off of whatever their situation is and whatever their goal is. So yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that. I wanted to kind of bring that back around.
Absolutely. I do want to just mention a little bit more about the shame and the guilt
Yes.
because that is the biggest obstacle for people to get started. And I know it because I've been there. I had the six-figure debt. And it's no fun. It's no fun to sit there and think about how much debt you have and how are you going to get out of it. It can be overwhelming and suffocating and embarrassing. And I think that's one of the reasons I think, I work well as a coach because there's nothing anyone can ever say to me that I would go, oof, I didn't make that mistake. I mean, because I've made all the mistakes, and I still survived. I mean, it's funny because I often tell people that my story is, less, elegant swan and more drunken flamingo. And I still made it to financial independence. And so I tell people, I'm like, believe me, that this is nothing that is insurmountable. You can handle this. You can have a path. And the last thing I do encourage people is to think about income streams. Not only to have your day job, but think about the things that you're good at that you can help other people that struggle with, that you can help them with, or maybe rent out a bedroom out of your house. Your kids have moved out and now you got this house and, maybe you have tenants. Maybe you rent out your car. Maybe, I mean, like you're dog walking or, I mean, it's amazing. It's so amazing the different ways people make a few extra bucks here and there, So yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
the shame and guilt it's definitely a lot of it is it's funny because it's money coaching, but it really is money coaching, but it's therapy. It's both because you have to have those conversations, and when you're a single parent, you already have everything, you have everything on your shoulders. Hiring a coach can cut through the noise and just say, you know what, I'm going to take that off your plate. All you have to do is this step one, two, and three. Don't worry about the rest of it. Let's just focus right here. And just to know, because I had a coach in the beginning, and I tell you, it was the best. It was just like, finally, it's like I felt like somebody giving me, air
Hmm.
that I could, in this little hurricane of the children and, drop off and pick up and guilt of, putting them in before and after school care. And, I mean, but it's so important, it's so important. The right coach so much, can do so much.
That's
So
right. It's not pretty. When looking at numbers and seeing where the spending goes, if it's just been
yeah.
something that you do and you're not paying attention to what you're doing, you're just swiping or you're entering in your
Hmm.
card number or, however you're spending, it can it can definitely kind of feel ugly,
Yeah.
the shame, the guilt
Yeah.
that you were describing, and it can be difficult to face that reality of, wow, how did I get here? What have I been doing over the past year or several years to have gotten to this position?
Yes.
And but as you mentioned, it is so important to just face it head on and
Yes.
let's see the reality, because until then you're not going to be able to change the habit that you've been doing or the habit that you've created, or the routine of how you've been doing things. And if you're not able to change it, you're going to continue to make that debt grow bigger and
Mhm.
bigger and bigger. At some point you have to face it. The way that for me, I look at it as we could either face it voluntarily, like we're doing it intentionally on our terms, or we're going to face it when life
Yes.
happens.
Yes.
And it's like, which one would you prefer to do? Because
Yeah.
the time is going to come for you to have to just kind of look at it and say, okay, this is the reality of things. So do you want to do it when it's in on your terms, and
Mhm.
when you are more in that, you use the word power, you're in the power position, you're in that power
Mhm.
seat, that driver's seat, versus something happens in life, something going wrong, and now is kind of like forcing you to do it, and that
Right.
feeling is not a good feeling either.
Right, right. And that's exactly, I was the latter of the divorce and forcing me to really take a look at things. And it took me a little while to get in that space of, okay, it's time to put my big girl pants on and do what I have to do. And it's never pretty. It's never, well, especially when you see $257,000, I mean, that's no picnic. But you get through it. You get through it. And, the kids are grown and now I do this and teach others. So it's lovely.
Yes. Is there, let's talk about, let's create a little bit of a scenario. Let's say we have a single parent who may have one or two younger kids, kind of like you were saying, when you went through your divorce and your kids were around three-ish or so. I believe that's what you
Hmm.
said. And let's just say that person is currently living check to check. And it's like for them, they don't see a way out. They don't have extra after the bills have been paid. They don't have any extra. So, what suggestions or initial steps could you provide to them, that person that's listening, in order to just kind of get the process started somewhere?
Yeah. Yeah. So when I was in those shoes of, well, the good months were paycheck to paycheck, and then the bad ones were no paycheck.
Mhm.
I started to sell the furniture out of the house to make ends meet. I was dog sitting, house sitting where I could, um, and I tracked my spending. I tracked down to the penny in the beginning. Now I don't do it like that, but in the beginning, I tracked down to the penny. When I was unemployed, it was much easier to do all the cooking from home. But when I was employed, then I would do the grocery, like I tried to set it up so that I had a routine. So every day I had a routine. I get up a little bit earlier before the kids, like the hour before the kids got up. I did my exercise routine, got breakfast on the table, made my bed, got myself ready. Then I wake up the kids and get them ready. The routine was a lifesaver. And then when I would get them down, I would divide up the house into, like, I don't know, quadrants, and say, okay, like this is going to be deep cleaning for the kitchen. This is, quick, like I definitely wanted to stay on top of the clutter. So every morning before I would leave the house, wash all the dishes, clean up little things like that that just make you feel like a human being, like if you let it all go, then it just becomes this overwhelming task. Staying on top of that kind of stuff, finding ways to get a little extra money, like I did entertain the idea of having someone move in with us, but with two little kids, I didn't know anybody well enough to do that. But that, if you have a spare bedroom or something like that, having somebody move in for a little extra cash. But the thing to be careful of is that when you find an extra income stream, make sure that you're still living within your paycheck to paycheck. And all that extra money, make sure that you give yourself a little treat. Doesn't have to be anything big, but something that says, you know what? You stayed on top of it this week, and we can make a dent in our debt, or we can add um, an emergency fund, or we can make a little sinking fund for something. Um, so those are the types of things that I did in the beginning. Very much watched every penny that came in. I would scrutinize it and ask myself, when I'd look at the spending, I'd ask myself, well, did I really need to spend money on this? Do I need to, like, I cut the cable, and that was, what, $60 or whatever back then. And that's $60. And so people go sometimes, oh, well, that's just $60. Sure. $60 times 12, though, can be a nice chunk of change. And that's what I think people don't realize is, like, even when you're renting and you're spending, let's say, $1,000, but $1,000 times 12 is now $12,000, So obviously we all need a roof over our head. And sometimes it makes sense to do renting over buying a house, especially now with the prices the way they are. But, it's really challenging yourself and asking the questions of, did I need to spend that? Is there a way where I can spend less? And the last thing I would do, especially because food is always, it doesn't matter if it's, now or 10 years ago, food's always expensive when you have children. And I would always shop the sales and I would buy extra. And so when I would cook, I'd double and triple recipes and then I would freeze stuff. So the nights where I don't feel like cooking, at least we have something I can pull out of the freezer and that makes things easier. And I would always include the kids, so like during the week, it's like, Fridays were like a fish day, Thursdays were, I don't remember now, like pasta. One of them was like a chicken day. But I would try to make every day a theme. This way I didn't have to think about what I was going to cook. I just knew this is what we're doing. And then the weekends was a lot of cleaning up and leftovers and that kind of stuff. So, and then the kids would participate, we'd have these taste tests of, okay, I bought one of each, these 4 different kinds of pears and let's cut them all up and then tell me which one you like. And this way, they have a say in what you're getting. It's not just, I bought this, it's going to go bad, you have to eat it. No, we had a conversation, you guys tried it, this is the one you liked, and this is what we're having. And so it opens their mind too to different kinds of foods and stuff, and I got all kinds of funny stories about, like eggplant and mushrooms, but the kids eat all of that stuff now, because we tried making it different ways. And maybe the first time they didn't like it, I wait a week or two, I make it a different way. And, until you find that one thing. Tomatoes, my son's never going to eat a raw tomato. It's just never going to happen.
Okay.
No, that's never going to happen. But he eats eggplant, mushrooms. I mean, stuff that he didn't think he would ever eat. And so it's kind of a fun, you try to make it fun. Try to make it fun and remember what's really important. Do you really need like 20 stuffed animals or all these toys, or none of that stuff really matters. None of it matters because you know what the kids want? They want time with you. They want time. And that's what my kids would tell me, now that they're adults. I asked them, I said, when you guys were little, what was harder for you, when I was working or when I was unemployed? Hands down, they both loved it when I was unemployed because I was volunteering at the school because I had the time. I had volunteered at the school. I was less stressed in some ways because I'm not running around. But, we cook dinner together. One sets the table, one clears, and it's just there's more family time, together. And they wouldn't trade that for anything, and they didn't care if they didn't have designer. None of that mattered. None of that mattered to them. They didn't even know we didn't have cable. The TV was never on, so they didn't even think about it. They're like, we think we didn't have cable? I'm like, no, I couldn't afford that. What are we, Rockefellers? So, but it's, yeah, you think that, they need all this stuff. They don't, you know? So yeah, kids are more excited about the box than the toy the box came in, like then, I mean, right? Then turn it into a fort or a slide or whatever.
Yeah, they're poke holes in it and wear it as a costume.
Yes, yes, robot,
Right. Yes.
you know.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you gave so many things for us to think about. And I jotted down, it looks like a paragraph on my paper.
Oh,
I'm just going to run through quite a few of those because I
yeah,
want to just reiterate. You didn't say this word, but as you were describing it, one of the things that you do and that you suggest is to create a routine. I'm going to add in the word self-care because you
yes,
mentioned with your routine, you intentionally woke up an hour earlier before the kids to focus on you and
yes,
to focus on you yourself as well as to get your day started in a, I guess, more on a more positive foot, or even just from an organizational standpoint, you were able to get a few things done while it was still
yes,
quiet. And that was, in my way of describing it, will be like you creating your me time and
yes,
self-care, especially when going through financial situations and dealing with the stresses of finances, self-care is super important. It's
Yes.
important to help you keep a clear and focused mind.
Yes.
So routine, self-care, you repeat it over and over, make it fun. So
Yeah.
single parents, you're listening, you have kids. So make it fun. You can, how do I want to say this? It's the situation that you may be in financially. It's all about what you make it. Make it fun. Your kids didn't even know that you didn't have cable because you created other things for them to
Yes.
be able to get involved in or to experience, having them help out with getting dinner prepared or with helping clean the different quadrants or zones in the
Yeah.
house. It's all about what you make it, because unfortunately, a lot of people, when they're going through financial struggles, it's like their whole world is just dark,
Yeah.
and there's this big weight over them, and every other area of their life is affected, as it should, maybe
Yes.
even from a financial standpoint. However, what I want people to get out of this episode is that there's still hope. You can create a positive experience even during the financial struggles that
Yeah.
you may be facing right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, having said that, I'm just going to add on that I'm not by any stretch saying that I did it all right. Like I said, drunken flamingo. And there were many nights when I'd put the kids down because we had a routine, and I'd put the kids to bed, and then I would go and sit in my closet and shut the door, and I would just cry.
mhm.
And I cry for like a good half hour and just let it all out. And then I'd get up, put some cold water on my face, do what I need to do to get ready for bed, and do it all over again the next day. So, it's not like put on a happy face. For the kids, you want to be strong. They're going to follow your lead. But remember that, yeah, it's hard. And if, take that time for yourself. If you need, like I cry, I'm a crier. So I'll sit and I will, yeah. And at many a night that I would just let it all out. But in the morning, doing the exercise and having that routine was, God, it was so helpful. It was so helpful,
Yes.
because there's one less thing you think about. You just know what you need to do, and it's the same every single night, and the kids appreciate it because they know what's coming and they know what's next,
Yes. Structure
so
is important for
yeah,
kids.
yeah, yeah, and adults. Yeah.
Yes. That's right. Yeah, I'm glad that you did add that. Yeah. Every day
Yeah.
will not be sunshine and rainbows. No.
No, no. But the crying, I definitely didn't want to do that in front of the kids, but yeah, you just do the best you can, and just a lot of grace. I think there's a lot of grace when you're in that position, and just knowing that, you know, at the end of the day, when you think about and you audit the day and how it went, sure, you can look back and go, well, I could have done that better. Okay. But okay, so tomorrow's a new day, and you do it better tomorrow, and that's really what matters, is that, because we're all going to make mistakes. We all do things that we're like, that wasn't a good idea, but you learn from it and you move forward, and you give yourself that grace, and 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 give yourself those props. I mean, as women, we don't do that a whole lot. It's always like the slog of moving and doing.
Mhm.
But you know what, it's like it's funny, I was just telling my girlfriend I do goals, and I was telling her that, a lot of people, they have their goals and they just check them off, or they cross them out when they get hit the goal. I don't do any of that. When I have my goals, I actually put little smiley faces next to it. And so when I look at it, if I'm having one of those days where I'm like, what am I doing? Am I just like wasting time? And then I pull out my goals and I see all the little smiley faces. It kind of gives me a little like, okay, so maybe I didn't waste, this last month. I actually did get some things done. And that's a good feeling, like whatever works for you, the little smiley faces, that works for me.
That's so cute. Good deal. So let's talk about resources. Now, when you were going through your your financial situation, You
Hmm.
did mention one of the resources that you took advantage of was unemployment. What
Hmm.
are others, if any, that may have helped you or that you know of now that you could share with someone, that they could possibly research, reach out, and or take advantage of? What are some other resources that are out there?
I came across a website called Side Hustle Nation. It's run by a guy named Nick Loper, and he interviews people that have side hustles. They have a day job and then they have a side hustle, and he does such a great job of interviewing people because it outlines how they got started, what the structure of the business is. And I mean, I'm sure there are other sites out there, but Nick is good people. And there are so many great stories out there about different jobs that, but I would say don't be afraid to try things. Like I tried different, things to make extra money, and most of them didn't work for various reasons. And I gave some examples in the book. Um, but, know who you are and what you have to offer, so the extra income, it was just, I cooked for people. I enjoy cooking. So I would make dinners and people would come and pick them up from my house. I did dog sit. I did house sit. And like I said, I did sell furniture out of the house. It's like, I didn't need all that. We're going through the divorce. Eventually I'm going to downsize.
Mhm.
So I was just selling stuff. And then my son said, don't have people come to the house when I'm home because it's stressful. And I'm like, okay. So then I'd have to figure out times when, they could come without the kids there. But I mean, those are the things that, like I wasn't buying. I only time I'd get myself clothes is after Christmas. And I think that there's a mid-year sale. And then I'd grab, any coupons I have. And yeah, I mean, you don't really need as many clothes as you think you do. I mean, I mean, really think about your closet. How much of that do you actually wear? I mean, and do you really need more stuff? Like if I go through the house and we audit everything and I get rid of stuff. It's amazing. Every year we do a big purge, and every single year I'm getting rid of stuff. And I'm like, where did it even come from? Like, where did that even come from? So, like, yeah, we just try to be, it's not, I wouldn't say minimalist, but minimalist plus, I don't know. But, like just because the more stuff you have, it's the more stuff you got to keep track of and maintain and keep up with. And I just don't want all that. Like I have two sets of bed sheets. I have summer and I have winter, and that's it. I don't need a closet full of four sets of bed sheets. I don't need that. And they're white. And so it goes with everything, that's it. Wears out, toss it, get another set, and then that's it.
Yes.
And then it keeps things simple.
Mhm.
Keep it simple. There's no need to complicate, with extras. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Those are some good ideas. Thank you for sharing. I'm
yeah.
going to add one more in there. It's one that I enjoy doing.
Hmm.
And it's definitely can be helpful, especially when going through a financial struggle. But the art of bartering. So I barter.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Yes.
I am big into a barter type of system. And so that can be super helpful if you're dealing with any sort of financial struggles. You may not have the extra money to purchase something that you may need. Look around your house and see what do you have that may be of value to the other person that has what you may would like to exchange in
Yes.
return. Or instead of maybe a physical, tangible product, consider what services you can provide in exchange for another service or in exchange for that product or that thing.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people, especially nowadays, you're able to get connected to those who may have a farm or a ranch and they grow their own herbs, or they may have eggs that they sell, or milk, whatever it is, or vegetables, whatever the case may be. If you are able to connect with them and see about bartering, there are a
Yes.
lot of groups online that are about bartering, and I would definitely suggest to research your local area to see who or where in your area do they meet up or gather to do some sort of bartering. So,
I am so glad you brought that up because, yes, I also do bartering and I still do bartering even today.
Me too.
But I actually, when the kids were little, we had a neighbor a few doors down so I have older son, younger
Mhm.
daughter, and
Mhm.
they have older daughter, younger son. And so when her daughter would outgrow stuff, she would give those to me and I would give her my son's clothes and we would trade so that the little ones would have new clothes, that weren't pink or blue. But I mean, yeah, absolutely. Bartering is such a great way to get things to make it easy. There is also Facebook, and I'm in our neighborhood, and I'm sure a lot of places across the country have those free free cycle and I've heard, and I don't know anybody personally, but I have heard many a story where people have gone to pick up stuff and they've practically furnished a whole house by getting furniture that people just they move, they downsize, they're whatever, and they're like, what am I going to do? And they just leave it, and people have gotten a whole sofa and coffee tables and dining room for free, and if you're handy, even better, you know. So yeah, that's a great way to do things too.
Yes, absolutely. Facebook, definitely a great place. Also, to add Meetup. Meetup is another app or community of people who will also get together and see what items can be exchanged. But I definitely have seen those groups that you were just describing where it's a group where it's intentional, where you're not selling anything. Like the
Mm,
rules are do not
yeah.
sell. It's just all about what do you have that you are willing to let go of for free. So,
Yes.
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 Awesome. It
Yes.
has been great. This has been such an awesome conversation because it has been packed with actual things that someone could take action on, and that's one of
Yes.
my main focuses of my podcast. I like to share information and resources and tips and tricks and strategies that someone can actually take action on today. So we have definitely provided a lot of information, and if you are willing to entertain me and entertain our listeners, I would like to enter what I call my fun segment. Are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be. All
Yes.
right, hit me.
Alrighty, so this is where I will ask you one, two, or three questions that have nothing to do with what we've discussed today. This is an opportunity for our listeners to learn something else about you, something different, something outside of finances. So, my first question for you is, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Okay, so it's like if my kids were here, they would be like, "Oh, pick me." I can tell you. So absolutely. So the shared areas in the house, I cannot deal with clutter. I cannot. I don't want to see blankets out. I don't want to see shoes on the floor. I don't want to see dishes in the sink. I don't want to see those things. When I come to cook dinner, I don't want to have to do the dishes first. And so it really makes me, oh, so fussy. I get really cranky if I have to come in and clean up after the last person, like my son or my daughter. And so yeah, that is absolutely a pet peeve. Yeah, I mean, yes, that will make me crazy, and it's so crazy that even when the kids were little, I was still like that, and my friends would come over and they're like, how is it you keep this place so organized? How is it? And you got two kids, a full-time job when I was working, and they're like, how do you keep them? I'm like, cleaned up before we leave the house and before everybody goes to bed, because if you stay on top of it just like
Mhm.
15 minutes, it just makes all the difference. So when we leave the house, I want the beds made, I want the dishes cleaned up. I don't want to see all that when I come home. So yeah, that's absolutely a pet peeve. 100%. 100%.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I felt it as you were describing.
Yes, yes, I know. It's so
Oh
bad.
my gosh, that is
Not my
hilarious.
desk. Not my desk, though. If you saw this desk, this would be the opposite of what I just said. But it's organized chaos. I got different piles of priorities. So that's what I'm going to go with. That's my story.
And we're sticking to it.
And we're sticking to it. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. I definitely have to ask you another question.
Okay.
Okay. Describe yourself in one word.
Oh, one word.
One word.
Uh, wow, one word. I just so many of them come to mind, but I would say I persevere. I am very strong I persevere, very strong in that area. I can make it through anything, and it's funny because like we all go through things. We all go through things. And when I look back, I think, you know what, if I could do that, then I got this. Whatever life throws at me, it will be, I've got this. So try to look on the bright side always, because there's always bright side, like my mother would say, well, that this too shall pass. This too shall pass when the kids were little. And I would say, Mom, now would be good.
Right.
But yeah, but yeah, you do. I do. I persevere. And I have a big heart. I volunteer. I have a big heart. So yeah, two words.
I will take it. I like that. Awesome. Well, I would like to ask you one more.
Okay.
So, what is a fun or random fact about either yourself or just something that you happen to know? So, something fun or random, either about you or something that you happen to know.
Um, well, okay, so I'm working on the workbook companion for my book. And one of the things that I decided to do that's different from the book is in the beginning of it. Well, first of all, I can tell you that writing a book, I have a whole new respect for authors because that is definitely on one of the hardest things I've ever done. But the workbook, what's different about it is what I did was I took some time to look up laws of money, like what I would consider money laws, right? And in my research of looking those things up, one of the things I came across is that it was 1974 when women were allowed to open a bank account or a credit card in their own name without their husband or a man co-signing for them. And it was 1988 when a woman could start her own business and get a loan without a man, husband, the whoever man in their life co-signing for them. And that to me really struck me, because I think it's hard to teach our kids things that we didn't have growing up. And when I think about my mom and those dates, that isn't really all that long ago. And the laws are always changing, and it's hard to stay on top of those things. But those two laws, that was very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 1974 is only 50 years ago.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm
Yeah.
like. Wait, that was just, it felt like yesterday. So,
Yes. Yes.
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That is a random fact. And
Just
I did not.
something, yeah, just something to think about,
Mhm.
just something to think about in this country, it's just, yeah, it was just very, very, I mean, like there are other things, but those are the two that always stick with me because just the idea that I couldn't, as a single woman, right? Not being in control of your finances, not being allowed to open a credit card unless you had a man come with you, or not being able to start your own business on your own 2 feet, get a loan on your own without a man coming with you. I mean, it really kind of paints a picture of why things are the way they are and how things have evolved or slowly evolved. So yeah, random things that I came across that I thought would be much more in the past and yet really not.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I'm glad I asked that third question. Very interesting.
Yeah.
And well, all of your answers were quite entertaining. So thank you so much for being willing to participate in that little fun segment. And let's go ahead and enter the next portion where I'm going to give you the opportunity to share any final nuggets or last words or takeaways for our listeners as we wrap up this episode.
Yes. So I would say that if you are interested, I'm going to give a plug for my book because a lot of people say, oh, well, I don't think I'm not ready to hire a coach, or how do I find out how to do this for myself? I make the book really easy. It is on Amazon. You can find it a lot of places, but it's called Grab Your Slice of Financial Independence. And it's on sale right now on Amazon. So I think it's like $10 for the paperback copy. So that's a really easy price point. The website grabyourslice.com is evolving, and the coaching packages, I'm learning a lot from doing this small business, and so I'm going to be expanding the coaching packages to be I think it'll reach more people because it'll have different things. Like I'll have one that's going to be an audit, where a lot of times people come to me right after a divorce and they're like, I don't know where to start. Can you help me just kind of put things in order? And so that would be like an audit, or you just want to know where you are. Can you just kick me off? And so that'll be just one thing. And then sometimes people just want you to just teach them. And so that could be another one. And then I was thinking like a coaching plus analysis where I actually go through specifically your stuff and then we work together for, I don't know, like 4, 6 months. I've never had anybody stay longer than 6 months, except for that one person. So I do have an accountability at the end of those things. But I am learning so much. Every client I work with, I learn myself, because everybody's situation is different. And I think that's one of the things that makes finances so hard. We all just want, like, just tell me, how much do I need? Oh, just tell me, what do I do? But it's really hard to do that because, a single mom with one kid versus a married couple with no children versus a 20-year-old, versus, I mean, like these are all different places. You have different mindsets, you have different priorities, you have different ideas of what financial independence is. And so that's, I think, a lot of times people struggle with that because they just want to have one answer, and it's not. And that's why I think, why I wrote the book the way I did, because I want people to ask themselves those questions and think about, how do I make it work for me? Because at the end of the day, that's the measure of success. Does it work for you? And so the book, while I wasn't going to write it, but so many people encouraged me, and I'm so glad I did. Um, it's been a labor of love. It's a passion. And the other thing I thought that was really interesting was, I had a couple of people actually reach out that said, "Thank you for telling your story," because I was raised by a single mom, and I don't think I've really ever understood the amount of sacrifice that single moms make, or single dads, um, and or how hard it was. Like my mom never showed me how hard it was. She just did it, and she was so strong and she was so amazing. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Make that community and help. I mean, think about when people ask you for help and how good it makes you feel that you were able to do something for someone else, but give them that opportunity too. Um, those are probably my closing words. So yeah, yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. And this is actually a perfect segue to being able to go further with your promotion. So I do know that you mentioned your book, Grab Your Slice of
Mhm.
Financial Independence. It is on Amazon right now on sale for $10. Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
And are there any other places of where someone, if they wanted to connect with you, where could they reach you? How can they get in touch with you to possibly take advantage of one of your courses? So kind of let us know a little bit more about where to find you.
Oh, yeah. I didn't say that, did I? So I do have the website, grabyourslice.com. And on there, you can sign up for in the coaching one-on-one, there is a free complimentary thing that you can just click on that and sign up for a class there. You can email me directly at grabyourslice@gmail.com. You can look up my name on LinkedIn. People ping me there. But yeah, those are all ways you can get a hold of me. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, there it is, folks. Make sure if you want to connect with Monica, be sure to reach out, grabyourslice.com or grabyourslice at gmail.com or grab her book off of Amazon. Thank you. Thank you again so much, Monica, for your time today and sharing the information that you were able to, that you yourself experienced, and you were able to share it with those who are listening. So everyone, for those of you who have tuned in, if you are looking for next steps, you're looking for guidance or coaching, reach out to Monica, reach out to myself. We are here to assist you along your journey. If you enjoyed this episode and you feel that it could be a benefit to someone else, please make sure you subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. If you want to contact me, go to my website, thesingleparentsnetwork.com, and you can reach out to me for any additional assistance that you may need. And as always, remember that when you master your mind, when you master your emotions, and when you master your assignment, you can live your purpose and live on purpose. Until next time, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.